For all the people jumping up and down and screaming about President Trump withdrawing from the World Health Organization, here's a big cold bucket of reality as to why. Dr. Li-Meng Yan, formerly a specialist in virology and immunology at the Hong Kong School of Public Health, is now in hiding in the U.S. and in fear of her life because she says she knew the minute she told the truth about COVID-19 in China, she'd be disappeared and killed. So she had to go to the U.S. to speak out. This woman is in fear for her life for criticizing and exposing her government, the Chinese government. In the meantime, much of the left has been vehemently defending the Chinese government from accusing Trump of racism because he called coronavirus the Wuhan virus. Now let that sink in. The Chinese government knew early on the virus was deadly, and they knew it could transfer from human to human, and they kept it a secret while the W.H.O. downplayed the danger. Recall the W.H.O.'s infamous January 14th tweet where they touted the claims by Chinese authorities that there was no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission of the virus. The Chinese government refused to let outside health experts in, and they warned doctors to keep silent. They could have prevented the spread of the pandemic if they'd just done certain things and sounded an alarm, but they didn't, because as Dr. Yan put it, the corruption among this kind of international organization like the WHO to China government and to China Communist Party government. Now, former Vice President Joe Biden claims he would have handled the pandemic so much better than President Trump. Axios Health recently shared a pretty laughable graph that compared the number of coronavirus positives with the populations of various cities. Now, I say it's laughable because there's no substance here. Compared to other pandemics, if you want to effectively and even accurately portray the impact of the virus. Perhaps a comparison to the H1N1 pandemic that struck while President Obama and Joe Biden were in office would be in order. Something like this graph right here. Now, of course, you see the media doing no such thing because it might make President Trump and Vice President Pence look like they're doing their jobs more competently than President Obama and Vice President Biden did. Dr. Yan did an interview with Fox News recently and had more insight and shocking revelations to share about the handling of the pandemic by the Chinese government and the WHO.
What did the Chinese lie about that you can prove?
Our government already knows that before the end of December, there are over 40 people get infected, but not, as they mentioned, like 27. And also, most importantly, there were human-to-human transmission already at that time.
Okay, so your claim is that at the end of December, there was human-to-human transition. And the Chinese government and the World Health Organization did not cop to that until about 3 weeks later.
I hope this will dispel the ridiculous China-promoted notion that calling this a Chinese virus is somehow racist. It's just giving credit where credit's due. Joe Biden at a recent fundraiser quoted what he called an old Chinese proverb that was actually a quote from mass-murdering Chinese communist dictator Mao Zedong. Now, can you imagine the media reaction if President Trump had quoted the dictator and claimed it was an old proverb? His apparent admiration, Joe Biden's of course, for the former communist dictator brings back up the issue of his and his son Hunter's close ties to Chinese corporations. And it begs the question, with the growing evidence that both China and the World Health Organization have not operated in good faith during this pandemic, maybe Joe Biden might not be the right one to be trusted to be tough on them. Well, if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel below and clicking the notification bell. Leave us a like and share this video with everyone you know, because YouTube sure won't do it. And if you want more of my news analysis and commentary, sign up for my newsletter at MikeHuckabee.com. It's completely free. That's a pretty good price. Well, that's it for this edition of The Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.